Hey guys, so you know that it's very expensive to apply to schools in the United States as an international student, right? It's very expensive. The application fees, very expensive. So most of the time when students are applying to school in the United States, they want to make sure that they are applying to schools that are likely to give them admission, that are likely to give them enough funding. So one of the major questions a lot of students ask themselves is that, is this school going to give me enough funding? Even in the first place, is this school going to give me admission? Then secondly, is this school going to give me enough funding? And these are very important questions because you don't want to spend this whole lot of amount of money to apply to schools, and then at the end of the day, you don't get admission, you don't get enough funding. Because even if you get admission and you don't get enough funding, it's very awful, right? Because especially if you're coming from an African country, it can affect your visa acceptance, right? So you're going to be denied your visa because if you don't have enough funding, that can be the probable cause. So it's very important to consider the school that you're applying to. So a lot of students or a lot of people ask, so which school am I supposed to apply that's going to give me enough funding, that's going to give me admission in the first place? So, one thing we should remember is that just like in every country, we have highly reputable schools and highly ranked schools. Same applies to schools in the United States, right? So we have ranked, schools have been ranked, right? So normally the usual term a lot of people use is big schools, right? So in the United States, for instance, we have the Harvard, we have UMass, and the likes. So when you're applying to any school, every school or each and every school has an acceptance rate. So please, before you apply to any school, don't forget to consider that. Check the acceptance rate of the school. So the higher the acceptance rate, the higher you're likely to be admitted to that particular school. I'm repeating that again. The higher the acceptance rate, the higher you are likely to be admitted into that school. And then the lower the acceptance rate, the lower you're likely to be, or the less likely you are to be admitted to that school. So usually those schools with low acceptance rate are very competitive schools. So it takes few students to be admitted to those schools. You get what I'm saying? So when the schools have a high acceptance rate, that means you're highly likely to be admitted to that school. So before you even start to apply to each and every school, you have to consider the acceptance rate of that school. So that's the first thing to consider. Then secondly, funding. So, this funding issue, I always say it depends on the program you're applying to. You have to know that it depends on the program you're applying to. With some programs, they give enough funding regardless of the school. All right. So maybe, in my other videos, I'll be talking about programs that if you're going to be applying to, you're likely to be receiving enough funding, right? Yeah. And some programs, you are less likely to get enough funding, especially business programs. So please consider that. First, check the acceptance rate of the school because that's going to determine the likelihood of your admission, right? And then check if the program you're applying is going to give you enough funding. And you can check all that in the website of the schools. So in my next video, I'll be talking about programs that are likely to give you enough funding so that we can consider when you're applying to this school in the United States. So once again, it is very expensive, trust me, very expensive to apply to schools in the United States as an international student. So make sure you're applying to schools that are going to give you enough, in the first place, that schools that are going to give you admission by considering the acceptance rate, and two, schools and programs that are going to give you enough funding. All right, thank you very much.